have much more of a libertarian trend, if you will, in our society. And so, for example, if you look at freedom of expression in the United States, we have Supreme Court case law that says that even that when Nazis wanted to march in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, but you can imagine this was in the 1970s, there were still Holocaust survivors, how offensive that would be. We said they had a right to do it, and they were allowed. Now, equally American on that, when they actually did the march, there were 4 times more people marching against that march than the marchers themselves. So our view of free speech, for example, is that you beat bad speech with more speech, and you let the ideas. So would we say that somebody shouldn't wear whatever they wanted to wear? No. I mean, we wear whatever headgear you want to wear, do whatever you want to do, so long as you're not doing something that's going to undermine somebody else. And I do think it's a point. Look, I work on human rights every day, and what we cannot do is establish some kind of cultural acceptance of human rights, because every problematic bias throughout human history has always been tried to justify by culture or religion. So once you say that it's okay to not abide by universal human rights, it's a universal declaration of human rights, once you say that you can somehow have an exception to it, then you've undermined the entire system completely. So you can't do that. But what you can do is say that we have to, if our end goal, if our end objective is to improve human rights around the world, promote and protect women's equality, freedom for LGBT persons and people of different descent, stop Islamophobia, whatever the issue is, but you want to make changes, then you would be undermining your own efforts if you didn't take the cultures into account as to how to reach the people involved. Let me give you a very specific example. Female genital mutilation, right? This is a practice in a number of countries where women are subjected, oftentimes by their own families, to a practice of mutilating genitalia. And what that does is it can cause grave and serious health risks. It can usher in a whole set of other problems, and it's also a source of control oftentimes. But when 70% of a country is doing it, then you have to ask yourself, even if your end objective is to stop it, how do you do so? Well, one of the things that some have done in the UN system is to figure out how you take the people who have vested interests, like the women who are generally elders in their community. How do you give them some other job within that society to do so that they are not left penniless? How do you figure all that out? And so, understanding culture in order to try to figure out how you address these issues is critical. But on the other token, we cannot be in a place where we allow culture or religion to somehow be used as an exemption or an exception from universal human rights. And that's including women's issues, of course.
I would like to thank Mr. Harper for coming here tonight, and I know that he has to leave, so thank you very much for coming and to sharing your thoughts. We'll continue.
No. Thanks so much. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So,
oh yeah, great, yeah, thanks. I feel like I'm included in the circle.
So, would you like to add something there, or should we go on to the open questions, whatever you feel?
In fact, I was going to use the example of female genital mutilation. Indeed, and it's all very well to be right, but how on earth do you enact change? And I think that's looking at things from different perspectives. So that is what HeForShe kind of reflects to me. So that was
how the traveling, being exposed, suddenly something that seemed cultural may change in your view, you know, and then this is always very difficult when you travel, what to accept and what not.
Yeah, definitely. I think in Lyon we have experienced this. That sounds big, small, but in group work we have so many different cultures, and what one person thinks is right, and the other one person has a different opinion. So it's just a very small example, but you can exaggerate it to all kinds of different levels.
Yeah.
But now I would like to give the word also to the audience. Encourage you to ask questions, to share your thoughts, and I don't know, just give us some feedback, what you think, what you feel, with your own experiences. Anyone who wants to go first? Graziella?
I just want to make a little comment.
I just want to comment about Mr. Harper's, unfortunately he left, but this American view about everyone can wear what they want and this fine line between religion and... Actually, if we take an example in Switzerland, in Ticino, they prohibited the burqa because they found out that actually they were using this kind of clothing to deal with weapons and drugs underneath, and actually even steal things. So it's extremely interesting, I think, to see the extent of difficulty and how different we are, how complicated it is to deal with different cultures, different level of development of countries in the world, and what we want to achieve, because here we are for the HeForShe here, but it's more, I think, to a certain extent it concerns more developed countries and people that can afford this kind of thinking, because when you think about child labor or other super important issues that are going on around the world, well, it needs also to be reconsidered. But if I make my comment, I find it still great that we do this kind of moments, because it needs to start at a certain point.
Thank you very much. I think that's very true. And as we said earlier in the pre-discussion, that even though we are very privileged, I think we are also the people who can start it, because we don't have the same fears. Am I going to stand up to my employer? Is he going to fire me or not? I think we have different rights here, so we can make the first step and reach maybe different people. You would like to say something?
Yeah, I had a thought regarding our global responsibility and how we can impact from here wherever else we go. Because even as consumers, we can choose what we buy. And as and this is also as a consumer, but also in your job, what do you buy from and who has made those products? So, and if you end up as an investor, you can also put your money only in those companies where you know they are aware of women's issues. So maybe I buy bags for my conference in your hotel, whatever it is. You buy this also from countries that are not as developed as this one, but you make sure that the women are working on those projects and that they're paid well. Maybe you set up a fund for education. So we can actually from here be very active as consumers and as leaders in the organizations we work for by being really aware of this. So you say, stop, I don't want this product, I don't want to buy this, and yes, this I want.
Yeah, that's a very good comment. We can make a choice, and we have to step out of our comfort zone. I mean, the handbag, if it's cheaper or something, might be very attractive, but comfort zone leaving is something we should at least do when we're young, and hopefully continue through our whole life. There was a question over here.
Okay, so you actually answered my question, but drawing attention to what Mr. Harper said, I'm sure that there was a lot of depth in there, no matter who's from the UN. I found it politically correct as well. But where do you see this movement going? How are we going to actually make a difference? And yes, I understand that we are from a privileged society, but to really enforce the movement across the world, or at least within governments to accept it, I think that's probably the next step, to set an example. And how would you, as recommending to either future leaders or being leaders of today, recommend that the new generation take that step forward? And that's changing an attitude, and not regardless whether you're male or female, if that makes sense.
Start? I think that, there is we have to, you know, when we meet someone very different, like first time I went to, I went to some Arab countries, I saw people were really covered, and I thought, wow, you know. And I thought, again, let's not judge this. I was with so many women, and they were such sisterhood, and they were such beautiful community that sometimes you don't even find in the West anymore. And I thought, wow, God, these people, I love these sisters, this sister community that they have here was so strong. And then I also thought about, like, humanly, what if I were to, you know, put gloves on my hands? What if I were to cover up, you know? So I was kind of imagining that as an actress, almost like, you know, what if I were? And then I thought, maybe that would be possible. Why not? Just that then I flew back to Europe, and it was the middle of June, and I came out of the airplane, and in front of me were some really covered women. And it was really hot, and I took off my jacket, and I felt the wind on my skin, and I thought, oh, that's so nice. That really, no, for me, I'm really happy to feel the wind on my skin, and I'm appreciating the freedom I have to do that. But I think we need to really put ourselves in the situation of another person really deeply before we can kind of judge it. And I think that's what happens so often in a lot of forums. It becomes like intellectual and la la la. So what's important for this campaign to really work is that it goes down, and that we really start talking at a deeper level. And the fear is, the only problem I think if it's caught up in some commercial thing now, that it's, there are all these right words flying around on billboards and so on. So, but I mean, it still starts something, but I just hope it goes down to real conversations and where you can really change and you really know what you're talking about because you felt it. You know, decided, oh, I don't want to cover up because I like to feel the wind on my skin. Someone else may choose something else. Right? Kind of a little bit of insight.
I think in the future you'll make a difference when you will hire people, your collaborators. I don't know. I mean, no. I mean, that's the.
Yeah, and I think also if you think, I don't know, if you hear in class a word like, I don't know, manager, the quick assumption, the reflex, assuming a male or a female, I think these are the small things that we can change and we can kind of trap ourselves. Like, I don't know, when you're on a diet and you suddenly eat chocolate, you're going to go, oh, that's not good. So you're going to see what you're actually doing yourself, rather than, I think like payment is a really good goal, but it's a very high goal, but we can make change in small things and trap ourselves a little bit, like what are we actually doing what we're not aware of, the small steps. Yes?
Yes, I think that the women, if you want to change something, I think women of men need the strong voice. Today there are not so strong voices for women of men. So we need to have heroes. Because this is what is made inspiring people. Just you need then some of you need to be the heroes. You need to be Franco, he's a hero. And he has to be this one, and Shirley is a heroine. And he has to fight, even if everybody say you are crazy, you cannot make it. And he needs to be. He comes from Panama, a difficult country, machis, with a really very macho country. He has to go and just talking about this one and say, and has to go to the, maybe it will be a president one the next time. And people like him, yes, you have to believe that everything is possible. And you are the possibility. You have all the opportunity of the world to become what you want to become. And it's not us to tell you what to do. You know what to do. You know exactly what you believe. You're going to act, and acting as per your own, I would say, inner knowledge. When you act like that, there is no possibility. There is no, everything, the path is going to be open. All the obstacles are going to go away, but to fly away. Is Franco's going back with this, and Chile is going back with the conviction that it's possible. You will make Panama a beautiful country when the women are going to be going back to home and say to the husband, I'm going out with my friends tonight. You stay at home with the children. Just do it. It's just believing and just trusting that it's really possible and it's coming really from you. I cannot tell you what to do because it's, we are another generation regardless of everything. I can tell you what I did in a small thing so what I did, doing a male work, let's say, and growing up in a family where it's an Italian family, where my mother said, anyhow, you're not going to do anything, because I couldn't do anything myself. And so already she was cutting my wings, because he's just telling me, there is nothing to do, this is a male job, you're not going to do it. Why you want to go and swim? You don't have to swim, you don't need to swim. If I want to swim, I don't need to swim. So it's the limitation coming from us. And the limitation is what, if you overcome this limitation, all of you really become the leader of tomorrow, and the leader of, we don't even talk about gender equality. Just, I don't know, there is a beautiful pictures that I received in a book. This is the tomorrow, future of tomorrow. And there is a man and woman which has a cart with all the garbage. And the two of them, they're taking this garbage together. And this is what you do. But this garbage today, tomorrow is going to be plenty of jewel. But together, one on the right side, one on the left side, they're going together there. But you have to believe this. And so I know that it's possible. I know that everybody of you, in a few years, I will meet you maybe in Panama or somewhere else, and you'll be exactly what we're talking about. You'll be really the ambassador of a much, much better world. Much better world where the problem with gender, it's not going to exist. It's not going to exist.
Sacha,
Just one, two things. I think you already had an impact on your friends and colleagues here, just by raising the issue, bringing the issue here in this school. Full stop. Now, the second thing is also regarding the heroes. I ask, I call them the dream team. These engineers that I was talking about. Who is your hero, female hero? For you, who are your heroes? And I was expecting Angelani, Merci.
Shakira.
Yes, and it's all it's my professor. I said, why? Yeah, because she has a job. She's working like mad, like crazy. She's got results. She has a family. She has kids, and she has a normal life, or super normal life. And just that means you will be the example, and it's in your vicinity. It's not far away sometimes that you can be, or the example. Does that make sense?
Nice, thanks, Sacha.
What I was thinking was, everybody can talk with their feet. So you're going to have a lot of recruiters here on campus, and you're probably going to get 4 or 5 job offers, right? So have a really good look at the management board of the companies that are recruiting you. Because organizations, they actually recruit for organizational fit, but have a good look and say, am I the success image of this organization? We know that organizations that have gender balanced boards make more money. The business rationale for gender balance was made 20 years ago. Some great stats here on the back of this, and Kristin brought them up. So this whole concept of the best place to work is great. What's the best place for you? So look at the board of management, and if it's all middle-aged white men, and you can actually never be that, I would say maybe you want to look elsewhere. You want to look for senior leadership, and it doesn't have to just be the board. If you have any chance to analyze top 200, do, because you'll see that most organizations have a strong success image that snaps back into place around about the top 200 range. So again, is the organization worthy of your talent? That's how we can influence the next generation. Is, you know what? You millennials are actually in fairly short supply. We boomers are eventually going to drop in our tracks. And then you will get our jobs. But it means that you're a hot commodity. You're coming with a first-class degree, with a lot of business experience, a lot of savvy. So yeah, somebody should deserve you. So make sure they do. Do your homework first.
And it's also for those of you who would like to start a business too. I think there is, the consumers, just as yourself, are becoming more aware. And I was just thinking, I've been dealing with a Swiss bank lately that every year I get their brochure and there's no picture of any woman in it, and it's like they're an entrepreneur. So for 4 years I've been writing to them and I'm saying, look, you know, I have, I'm leading this women's organization and we are your client, and it would be nice if it was a little bit more oriented toward our market. And I know that many of the people that come to our event have money and they can choose. No, and it's hard for me to find an alternative bank that is a little more interested in this incredible market opportunity also. But I'm just saying, if someone came around though and I knew they were more inclusive, not only to women, but also to the all sort of diversities that was missing in this brochure that I tell them every year, I think I would switch back, you know? And so this is also, if you don't find that employer of choice, maybe it's missing. So maybe you should start the thing, you know? So, yeah.
Maybe my point that I would like to raise is, even if you have a bad experience, try to make it as much as you can, take it, learn it, what it is for you. I was once in a dishwasher, you know, real dishwasher. I mean, a company, it's not on my CV anyway. But and believe me, I knew that. I didn't want that again.
Yeah.
And that was a great lesson. Of course, when it was the time, it was pretty bad. But because I didn't realize that something was coming up, down, laterally all the time. But at least I didn't want it again. And, or at least I was not fit for this organization, or it was not me for that organization. This is at least what I discovered. And this is why now I think this time you're not going to have a job for the next 40 years in the same company, or maybe you will, excellent. Otherwise explore as much as you can. Now, when you are 45, it's another bull game. I mean, because you have family and then you have to bring some income somewhere, definitely. But now, go for it. I mean, yeah, if I may.
Just finish just to tell you just a little anecdote. And I never wanted to do car business because I don't like cars. And so it's coming to me. So one day, somebody was dropping on the table just a piece of paper, and it was written then, we are not here to do what we love. We are here to love what is given to us to do. So this is just my last word.
Yeah, that's a wonderful last word, I think, to remember. And is there one final, very important question itching? Yes, can you speak very loud so I don't have to...
I just want to ask, like, when you talk about cultures and different cultural regarding that, so people psychologically, like women in that culture usually are submissive, and then when it's reached into the state that they are not open to more opportunity, and they don't, push themselves forward to search for more and to do more and to grow more. So when you communicate with them, how can you pursue them to do more, to encourage them to do more and interact more?
I know exactly. This is what happens a lot. And I think that is where, there's a lot of literature. For instance, Lean In. The Lean In movement is all about pushing yourself forward as a woman. But I think also you can't get that in all cultures, at least not immediately. So, and we don't always want to push. But it's also the enlightened leader who is also pulling people. So if I see someone who is very shy, or in certain cultures very submissive, but they're brilliant for what I'm doing, maybe I can also take initiative and say, come with me. I don't think it's always a responsibility of someone to push them, say, here I am. But it's also, I'm awake and I see and I bring you with me. And meanwhile, you need, of course, to learn to stand up, and this is, I see from my experience in Asia, especially in Japan, where I've worked for a bit. We do workshops also in, it's not that you need to exaggerate and become aggressive, but don't hide what you know, Try to bring out.
Again, from my personal experience, I just come back from Brazil. And when I'm in Brazil, I just visit travel agencies, I do our clients. and the majority are women. And the difference from these women now and 10 years ago is just huge. At the time, the women didn't dare to speak up what they really need, they really wish. Today, beside the fact that professionally they are advanced, so they are just more secure about themselves, what the women need is they need something more. It's not a matter of money, it's not a matter of power. They need something for their heart. And I'm just switching all the time because I've been like Buddhist, so I'm switching all the time with the Lama, talking about geometry. It's actually today I'm doing business not talking about cars, about something which speaks to them, to their mind, but to their heart. So they need something else. You cannot just talk about job. You cannot just talk about the responsibility, about money, you cannot talk with the women like that. You have to really to find the right way, or waiting the right moment to talk to them about the things you really love. And what they love is the life in all. Up, down, upside, up there, and up there. They need everything. They need 100 degrees interest about life. Men are not like that. It's not that the men are not like that because they cannot. It's because they still have to work a little bit more and just let them more open about the same thing the women like it. But the women is really, really different. They need something more. If the company where you're going to work doesn't give you all of this one, just don't take it. Just go where you really feel well. Even if they pay a little bit less, it's not so important. What's important is really if your heart is really full, if your mind is really full, if your body is really full, and you really feel well. This is what I say around when I'm traveling in Mexico, Brazil, and see all these women around. This is okay.
I had the great pleasure to live and work for 12 years in Indonesia and 8 in Thailand. So I just want to speak to a little bit of maybe the assumptions we might make about cultures, because I moved to the Netherlands after living in Southeast Asia and was amazed that I did not encounter women in leadership positions anywhere in the Netherlands. And I had seen it with great regularity in Thailand and Indonesia. At the time, the head of the Siam Commercial Bank was a woman. And still today, in Dutch banking, there's not a woman anywhere near the top. There, of course, have been women heads of state in India and Indonesia and Thailand. I really think that hell will freeze over before we see one in the Netherlands. I am Dutch and Canadian. I think I know of which I speak. And I led the European Professional Women's Network in the Netherlands for quite a few years and was on the board of the Netherlands Canadian Chamber of Commerce. I analyzed this and actually wrote a few articles on women in international management and about the kind of assumptions. And I think that we have to be very careful in a lot of maybe Western or developed countries that we can say, oh yes, well that's because, in Thailand there's an expression that women are the hind legs of an elephant, but actually they hold up the elephant, So I think we have to be careful about making assumptions, and as Kristin said, work from both ends to get the best out of the people who are working for you, and just see beyond kind of what we think are cultural norms or assumptions about a culture, because people will amaze you. And I'm going to say that Diana Munak, who was the CEO of the Siam Commercial Bank, is hands down one of the best business leaders I've ever seen, ever, regardless of culture, regardless of gender, or maybe because of culture and gender, just for a thought.
Thank you very much. I know there are probably a lot of thoughts left, but time is running, and thank you very much. I know Franco and Shirley are going to say a few ending words, but I just wanted to say already thank you for having the honor to lead this panel, and for the audience, maybe we can walk around a little bit. Everybody was very, very interested, very patient. The face was always very open. So maybe we can try to continue this conversation not only about HeForShe, but staying open and, trying to listen a little bit what's happening around us and to stay interested. And now to Franco.
First of all, we just like to say thank you again to all the panelists for coming out. I I speak for everyone when I say we had a great time hearing about all the diverse opinions. I think the key takeaways from this panel is that gender equality is socially conditioned from a really young age. So to combat gender equality doesn't just come from the workplace or in the school, it really comes from you personally. It comes from the choices you make, the things that you say. Like for instance, sometimes I'll find myself saying like, oh, stop being such a woman, and catching myself basically acting on these internalized gender equality. But on top of that, it's not enough just to have the sentiment to promote gender equality. You need the infrastructure, you need this educational system, you need governments, you need corporations to support this. So yes, there are questions about HeForShe being just so on the surface, which are totally warranted skepticisms. But actually at the same time, HeForShe does a lot of other things. So they donate to women in Uganda to empower them to build skills so that they can be self-sufficient. So it's not just a one-sided campaign by any means. I think for the launch of the campaign, we just wanted to raise awareness to just so that this is something that's in people's radars. Because for me personally, I didn't see gender equality as an issue or gender inequality as an issue in our school. But clearly from some of the responses that I've had, that's not the case. So I think from a personal standpoint, from what Dr. Farmer said about when you're applying for jobs, I had a personal experience actually 2 weeks ago with a hotel that I was interviewing for. And I went to do some research, and on their executive committee and management team, they were all men and from one country, which made me feel really weird, like something just didn't sit right with me at all. So I was asking all my friends, should I ask them, like, why are there only like men from one country? I couldn't remove that. Like if I didn't ask, I would never be able to take that job. So I was like, okay. So the question was bubbling up, and I finally asked, and luckily they said that this is something that they've noticed as well and that they are intending to address. So I think the point in saying that is you have to make these little risks, because there are a lot of people that still don't believe in gender equality, and you have to kind of ruffle some feathers at times with your interpersonal relationships and with companies and elderlies or anyone to really move people and to make that change. So again, thank you very much everyone for coming.
Just a few ending words. I remember when we started the campaign, it was the first day of the launch. I remember some people said that they didn't agree, and I remember just thinking, can I just look inside their brains? What is wrong? Am I wrong? What's wrong? So I just asked Julie, and she just told me that it's about planting a seed. Some people, I mean, some of us, we didn't even think about gender equality before the campaign. So it's about planting a seed, and just as a general question, just in 30 years, in 40 years, when we maybe come back to Glion, now that we've planted a seed, what are you going to do with that seed? What are you going to do with your talent, your energy? When you come back in 30 years, have you done something productive with it? Have you lived a fulfilling life? Well, just to finish, and I would also like to thank, because we actually have a committee, the HeForShe committee, so can Vasily, Georgina, and Elena just come here? Without these guys, it wouldn't have been possible. Just a big applause to these guys. Thank you.